What about the Scarlet Witch? Here we go. What show are we doing here?
Welcome to the Photo Focus Roundtable. It's episode 4. We're in April 2022. Flexibility. It's our monthly roundtable where we get together and talk about some current trends and not so much the daily news. We'll bring on one photo focus author each month where we get a chance to critique and expand on their article. Hey guys, let's take a minute to thank our sponsor for the show first, which is Photomatics. Photomatics is for high dynamic range photography. When your camera sensor can't cover the brightest and the darkest areas of a scene, you can take bracketed photos with the camera and use Photomatics. It's the easiest way to combine the images and create results, anything from artistic to realistic. Myself, I use it for my 360 work and my real estate work, and it's been a tool in my life for many, many years. Highly recommend trying it. It's free to download and try at hdrsoft.com. With me, as always, is Rob Moroto from beautiful Great White North, Canada. We're joining us for the first time. We have Jamie MacDonald from the Mirrorless Minutes Podcast, coming from Michigan. And all the way from Australia, Jemma Pollari is our photo focus author that we're featuring this month. So, welcome, guys. I wanted to bring everyone in at once, and let's hear what's new. First with Rob. As always, you go first.
You know what? I don't know what's new with me. It seems like, I think for the last 2 years, it's just every day seems to be the same. And for some reason, this year is exactly the same. So nothing much new. Still snowing, still hailing, still lovely white overcast weather all over. We got, let's see now. Do we get any interesting news? Not really. There's nothing new. I don't know.
There couldn't be anything new these days, right? But actually, since things haven't changed with this stagnation over the last couple of years, is one reason that we're getting together like this and doing a roundtable. So, also in the snow is Jamie. How's it going, Jamie?
Not too bad. Not too bad. How about you?
Hey, welcome. I'm glad to have you here for the first time. We have done some content stuff in the past, on shooting and stuff in the past, and it was really just great to have you on and connect and introduce you to the audio audience on the Photo Focus podcast. So
glad to be here.
And Jemma, again, all the way from Australia. I just always find that exotic.
Hello. Yes.
Just say hello.
We are
and
warm over here.
Yeah, we've got the guys in the cold area. You're down there in the summertime right now, or
it's
right?
I think it's spring technically. No, it's be autumn.
Yes, you're autumn.
Yeah,
yes.
No, we're autumn. We're going into winter. It's actually getting mildly cold at night in that we only have the fan set on 1 at night instead of on 3, and we have to have blankets, so it's a bit chilly.
Well, as always, I'm right in the middle. I'm Ron Pepper. I'm in Northern California, where it's always, it's fine. It's all right. Welcome, everybody. We have 4 of us with quite different experiences and styles as far as shooting and speaking and presenting. So that's why we come here. And this month we'll talk a little bit about the hot topic of NFTs. I'm getting asked so much about it. We just need to bring it up. I want to take advantage of having Jemma here because, Jemma, you are also the promptographer. Do I say that right?
That's right, yeah. I sort of say it as promptography, but promptography, yeah.
Well, I will be glad to ask you a few questions because that's a challenging area for me to prompt great looks and natural and engaging faces of my portrait clients. So I'll be glad to ask you a few questions. And then all that before we get to the featured article by Jemma, which is about exercise for photographers. I've been wanting to bring this one up for a little while. Great to talk about our health, both for not injuring ourselves and just staying healthy while shooting.
Yeah.
So let's jump into NFTs. I will ask you guys, and then I'll fill in whatever's left because NFTs are this hot topic of the day or month or something. And most people have no idea what it's about because there are a few areas that are just new and confusing. So let me ask you guys, who here has dabbled in NFTs so far?
I have.
I went down the rabbit hole a little bit with it. But I kind of, when it first started to be a bit of a thing, I started getting into all the communities with it on Twitter and on Discord and stuff like that. And went down a bit of a rabbit hole for a while, but I found it interesting talking to the people who are doing it more than doing it myself.
So did you mint some yourself?
I didn't, no, because I'm poor and it costs money to mint them.
Right. I'll point something out later about the cost too. What about Jamie? What was your experience with it?
Yeah, so I've got a couple NFTs over on Rarible, and to address the minting costs, you don't have to pay to mint them. There are other ways to go about generating the NFT. And Rarible is a site where you can actually create an NFT and then put it up for auction or for sale. If somebody buys it, they end up paying the gas fees for minting that token, that NFT. But I put a couple of my photos up there, just playing around, experimenting with the concept of putting something out there that you can deliver to a person and show that they have like complete ownership of it, the traceability of it on the blockchain. Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
So Jamie, with that, what did you decide to mint? Did you mint just a photo, like I'd say just a photo, but like just a photo without any extra special effects and stuff? Because a lot of the ones that of people that I ended up following, they're often very digital. They add in movement elements, that kind of stuff. What did you mint?
So I've got 3 of them over on Rarible that are getting 0 traction since they've been minted. 2 of them were still photos, and you're right. It seems that the ones that are selling hot are either like 3D in nature, whether they're like a piece of CGI graphic or something that has motion to it. So I did go in and create another NFT that is part of a series of an Urbex set that I had done, and it was in an abandoned home, and I just put some animated effects to it, and I think I was using Adobe Premiere and After Effects to create some atmospheric effects in it. So you kind of get that, I don't remember the software a long time ago, Flixel or something like that, Cinemagraph, that style of a look to it, so it looks like a still photo, but if you watch it, you'll kind of pick up on these little movements that are going on in it, because I felt like that is something that might get a little more attention. But as far as photography goes in it, I don't know if that's really the hot space for it yet or not, with NFTs, but I gave it a whirl.
Jamie, every time you and I sit down and talk, we seem to agree on a ton of things. And your experience sounds exactly like what I did. So I won't even really need to repeat it because I have some other things I'd rather talk about. But I did basically some cinemagraph and then some photos just to see what would happen, and no traction. But that's okay because that wasn't the point. The one thing I'll add though is, let's back up, because my whole reason to talk about this really is coming from the point of view of a guy outside of photography. I'm an enthusiast with the whole blockchain, Bitcoin, etc. So that's just a personal interest, and it's been an interest before money was really involved. I mean, it's all, making money or getting rich. When this first came out, none of us had the idea that, Bitcoin would be a getting rich thing. It's all about taking the control away from the centers, from the financial institutions, governments, central banks, all that. So I don't want to go deep into that. It's a photography podcast, but I'm coming from that point of view. So I've been interested in this, I've been interested in this for a long time before they were called NFTs. So just real quick, for anybody going, what are they talking about? NFT, non-fungible token. So the really quick way I would describe it is if you compare it to money. Money is fungible. A dollar is a dollar is a dollar. You can exchange them, and that's why money is convenient. Well, we're making digital things like that so that one copy of something is not necessarily the same as all the others. So you have a certificate of authenticity is what they used to call it, I think, when I was growing up. And that's done on the same technology as like Bitcoin is. That means that it's recorded, it can never be changed. So if I mint something, that's always going to be on the blockchain and nobody can change that. If I sell it to Jemma, that's going to be on the blockchain and nobody can change that. So it's there all the time. Okay, so that's what the NFTs are that are going on right now, and is being used as just people selling their art and hopefully making a bunch of money, and I'm happy for them. But what I'm really more interested in is it's intellectual property. It's the oldest thing in the book, right? Where we can register our photos with the Library of Congress now. And the future is basically the same thing as NFTs.
So on that, so I've had thoughts about that as well. So I've been a part of, Getty Images for about 11 years now. And I'm curious to see if we start seeing stock agencies start offering a client who wants to basically purchase an image with exclusive rights. I mean, back in the day, Getty did a lot of things with what they called rights managed images. Mm-hmm. And those were, there was some exclusivity to them. You paid more money, but you had exclusive rights to it, based on a region or however much you wanted to pay. You got all these different exclusive rights with that image. Excuse me. And I feel like that would be another use case for NFTs in photography or even in videography. If that
music or any other kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. It's a way to record that on the blockchain so that that the person who's using it has exclusive rights to using that. Right. And again, with some of these blockchain technologies, they're programmable. So it could be a contract that's got a set date on it. So if, whatever mega corporation wants Ron Pepper's photos for this, 1 year campaign in Europe, it can be set up onto the blockchain, programmed into this token so that they show that they have exclusive rights to that. It'd be cool for copyright reasons, I think.
Yeah. And for my part, what I most want people to get from this is to be aware of what's going on, frankly. As from one photographer to an audience of photographers, I want everyone to kind of know what's going on and be able to hopefully benefit from it. I'm not saying go get rich, but just benefit the normal way. And what you're referring to are smart contracts. So again, before NFTs, this is already possible. It's just that it's so early that there are no user interfaces for the smart contract. So if you create an image, you can have it on a smart contract that someone could then accept the contract or use the contract, or you could license it with a smart contract. And the smart contract means that there's no people involved. There's no one to trust. It's called trustless because there's no one involved except mathematics. And then when the contract is triggered, then it's triggered, and whatever happens from what was written in the contract happens. So it's again, it's so new, and many of us already for a few years have been saying, well, how can we use this? This thing exists and everything. And all of the people that are developing it that I've ever had a chance to talk to say, yeah, that's the big question, is how do we make it possible for everyone to start using it? And so my prediction is we're going to see, just like the internet, it's a perfect analogy, it just gets more and more user-friendly. And I think that's what's going to happen over a little while. Before we move on, I just wanted to throw out the fact that it's very expensive to mint these things and usually buy them. The gas fee is basically the fee for interacting with the blockchain. And that's really expensive on the ones we mentioned. It's on the Ethereum blockchain, but there are a lot of other competitive systems, blockchains, et cetera, that are not expensive to use. So another thing just to be aware of is to see which other services, blockchains, et cetera, take off. Which ones, again, let's go back to the internet analogy. Which projects are going to be the Yahoos and the Googles and the Amazons, and which ones are going to fall apart and will never be heard of again. There will be some winners. So everyone just, be aware of it. I would urge, yes, skepticism, but also it's going to be a big deal. So, there are scams out there. Watch out for those. But the idea of all of this is real. I really think that much of it's the future. And I would say just start experimenting with it, and maybe even experiment with one that's not expensive, like Jamie and I used. I used OpenSea, where they have something called, I think is the term lazy minting, where I paid a gas fee once. I think it was like $150 or something like that worth of Ethereum. And then after that, if something sells, then I think the buyer pays the gas fee from then on. So there are ways of getting around all this, but this cuts out middlemen. It has all kinds of great implications for the future. Like if I create something with models and a team and a producer and all this kind of stuff, you can build these things into you can build all those things into the smart contract. And then when they sell, everyone can get the benefit that's all based in there and can be dispersed automatically to your Ethereum wallets. Or the possibilities are really exciting. So that's what I want to send off as a message there. Is it's a great future.
So do you think we're like in the Web 1.0 version of all of this right now is what you're saying?
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm 52. When the internet was new, I was coming out of college, and, so I'm thinking it's the internet of, 1989, 90, something like that. When, some people had email, right? Something like that. And then in the, during the 90s, and by the way, I'm just going to go with this analogy, guys. I'm going to keep going. I was in San Francisco, where it was ground zero for the .com bubble. People walking down the street, they were first proud that they were .commers. Then we made fun of them for being .commers, and I saw the whole thing grow and crash. I was a gym owner, which I'm going to mention later when we talk about Gemma's article. And we had clientele that was rich for a long time, and then the bubble burst. So we're going to see all that happen in the blockchain space as well. A lot happening, there's going to be scams. Let's not worry about those. There are going to be failures, even though they tried very hard. And then there's going to be some that are the big winners that stick around. So
I know you want to move on, Ron, but I wonder how we pick the winners at this stage. Like what were the early characteristics of Google and Facebook and Amazon that we need to look for to pick the winners in the NFT space?
Yeah. Hey, believe me, I would be happy to talk about this for a long time. And we can keep going. Anybody with ideas? Because let me noodle on that for a second, because I was right there. Anybody have any ideas on that?
I think for right now, we're still just so early in it. It's like we're still in the stages of like getting CDs in the mail saying join AOL online, right? Yep. Like we're not even at Google or Yahoo or what was it, Ask Jeeves or
Alta Vista.
Yeah. I don't think we're even at that point yet.
I think some of it's going to come down to, there's a few factors. I think, electricity usage for one. The efficiency of the blockchain that these things are being minted on is probably going to be a big driving factor at some point for some of this. The time that it takes to mint and the processing power that it takes to mint. There are other projects out there that are far more efficient that might not necessarily run on Ethereum. So I think that the internet changed when bandwidth changed. I think that was a big part of it. And those who were able to capitalize on what you could do with more bandwidth kind of leapt out a little bit quicker, maybe. So I think that we might start seeing projects that are quicker to mint, more cost effective to mint, and probably better for the environment to mint. Maybe those will be some things to watch out for, projects that are touting those as selling points.
Well, I remember learning about a project that was intellectual property, and it would collect the information, and then from time to time it would actually add it to the Bitcoin blockchain. And I don't know if that's still out there or not, but Jamie, you made me remember something, another analogy, that I can recall trying to watch a Star Wars Darth Maul trailer, and I had AOL, and I clicked on the little video, and it just played about a blip of a second. You saw Darth Maul. It was all exciting. It was new, and it just would load and load and load and load, and then play for a split second, and then pause, and then load and load. It's just frustrating. So it was way ahead of its time. Just like a lot of internet companies and projects were way ahead of their time, trying brilliant, didn't make it because the timing wasn't right. And we're having that in this whole greater blockchain world as well. So there's going to be just the timing being right on some of these. And I've been thinking about this, and I feel like there are going to be a couple of these NFT systems, whatever they end up being called, and the currencies as well, that are going to be adopted because the timing's right. So maybe if I've been encouraging blockchain projects to market, to promote to the photography world, so that down the line, that's what we know, and then it gets adopted maybe even in the art world or in some greater group. But it's going to be a timing thing. It's going to be when it takes off. There are always these catalysts like inflation maybe, and things like that are always happening. And so, I mean, Jemma, I know. How can you predict? I mean, I can't. There's no way. I just want to be involved and see what happens. And I'm sure I'll be involved in it one way or another going forward. But don't try to pick the winners. Just try to, like I say, stay involved, and that's when you'll feel which ones you want to continue to support, or maybe where you want to dive in. Like if NFTs come out on Cardano or Horizon or on a bunch of others, maybe Jamie, maybe you know some other names, but I mean, I bought a couple of NFTs on crypto.com because I have an account there, and I use that for like a debit card and stuff. So I just threw, a few bucks at a couple just for fun, and probably nothing will come of it, but maybe it will. And, but I'm involved. I'm just trying it and seeing what happens. And like Jamie, I have a couple available up there that nobody ever sees. Well, we'll see. Any last thoughts on that? As you can tell, that's just a subject that I love. So I'm glad to cross it over into photography, and I just don't want people to miss out. Who really benefited from the big changing world of the internet? I didn't. I mean, but in this, I think that blockchain world is the biggest thing since the internet. And that might be a crazy sounding statement, but we'll back it up if needed. All right, let's move on. Maybe just for a shorter topic, since we have Jemma on, I even bought a book by Peter Hurley on drawing out expressions and using Hurleyisms and getting people to get out of their head and just get an authentic look. So it's a big challenge for me. I started practicing it a great deal in about February of 2020, and then guess what happened? But I was really diving into that and doing it in my local area, and then I didn't. So I would love to hear, maybe go around the table and just see what our best ideas are for getting an authentic look from someone or some thing, animal, vegetable, mineral.
Yeah, that's what I think I started about 2020 turning it into a blog, because I really like that idea of being able to get natural, authentic reactions from people, and that kind of photography where it's where you can really see the emotion between people and really unposed, really natural, those kind of things. So I had started investigating it when I first started out in photography, or more when I started photographing people that weren't my friends and family, because it's easy to like demand your friends do things, but then when you're working with strangers, I wanted a little bit more structure. So I've been using prompts, and I'd kind of gathered them all together on my photo website, and shared it on some social media groups and stuff, and they'd been really popular. So I then put it together into a blog where I collected all those ideas of how to get natural reactions from people. And I mean, none of these are like in reinventing the wheel. I just kind of try to take experience and what I've used that's worked and ideas that I've gotten from other photographers that I know and kind of mush it together so that it's in a easy to reference place. But yeah, it's a style that I really like, and I think it really works for a lot of people because it helps them to break through that anxiety of having to direct the flow of a session and get people reacting.
Maybe actually give us one specific one. What's your go-to? Like if you just have a family of 4 now, besides telling the parents to I'll deal with the, I got this from Levi's scene we had on last time, by the way. Yeah. Parents, I'll take care of the kids. You just take care of you, look at the camera and listen to me.
Yeah.
Besides that,
that was
what's your
literally
go-to?
what I was going to say.
Oh, I beat you to it. So you have to pick a second one.
Yeah, my second one, because otherwise you get the ABBA photo where everyone's like looking this way, looking that way, looking this way, looking as you try to take the photo. But yeah, no, one of my go-tos with kids is and with families is getting the kids to do things that sound weird but actually look really cute. So you can like you get the parents sitting on the ground and then get a little kid and be like, oh, can you see a bug in mum's ear? Or what does daddy's hair smell like? Does it smell really weird? And things like that, where they go up and then they smell mum's, they smell dad's hair and it looks like they think they're doing something, but it just looks really cute because they're like snuggling. Nice. And getting little kids to give each other a hug and to like squeeze each other as tight as you can. And it's not to get the photo of them like up against each other, which is also cute. But after they've done something like that, then they all relax and laugh, and those are the photos that you tend to capture.
Just split moment right after, right?
Yeah. And another one that I love as well. So that's like, this would be 3 now, but for couples, a really good one that my go-to with couples, I always use this in a session, is tell them to give a really big fake laugh. And they always go, but I'm going to look so awful when I give a really big fake laugh. But they give a really big fake laugh, like ha, 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 like the most exaggerated laugh that you can. And they just can't, they just keep trying to do it because they're like, I'm trying to do a really good job of this really fake laugh. And then they just can't maintain it. And then they both just like laugh naturally because it's funny. And so then that's the photo you get of them laughing naturally after they fail at giving like a really long. Yeah. I like that one too. So that's always a good go-to.
Jamie, do you have you have some ideas for getting expressions on what bears, fish, osprey,
That's funny.
Clouds?
Right. So I'm, of course, as anybody who's a photographer, especially to get to a certain point in your photography, regardless of what you shoot, somebody comes to you and wants photos. I mean, I do mostly nature and wildlife, but people will see photos of a lightning storm or a mountain range that I've taken, and they say, oh my gosh, I love your photos. Can you do our family photos? Right. I'm like, I can see how you make that connection. Mountains, family, sure. But so for me, I mean, I don't have prompts, and I think I know where to go now to start this education a little bit further for when I do get asked. But I find for me, I need to have some sort of opportunity to, if it's somebody that I don't know, which like you said earlier, lots of times it's friends or family or an acquaintance, but I have taken on a few jobs on the side for people that I have not met prior to, being introduced this way. But I like to get some time with them, FaceTime, just to get to know them. So it's always like this pre-session session where we kind of break down those barriers of who's this guy that's taking our pictures. And I'm like, who are these people I'm taking pictures of? So it's usually a lunch. I'll treat them to a lunch or a coffee or something like that, get to know them. That way I feel like when I am out shooting them, we already kind of know each other. It's easier to make those requests, to get them to sit a certain way, look a certain way, lift their head up or what have you. Again, I don't have a book of prompts, unfortunately. So for me, it's more about like a relationship building in advance of it. And then always everything that I'm saying is always a positive. If they might not be standing how I want them to, I'll be like, I love how that looks. Okay, can I get you to turn just a little bit this way? Can you bring your forehead down this way or what have you? So it's always get to know them, get them to know me, encourage them, even if they're not doing the right thing, encourage them to slowly make their way into how I need them to be to take the shot. Again, that's coming from a guy who shoots wildlife and landscapes. So your mileage may vary if you follow what I said, for sure.
Once again, I'm pretty much in that situation too. Rob, you have a background that's not just architecture and real estate. You have a background of shooting photos of people, right?
I do, but you know what? I'm the same place as Jamie. Like I shoot mostly furniture. So, you know, if you want to make a bed smile, you just turn the pillows up and make it look like it's smiling. Easy. People, oh my God. You know, I used to watch, you know, Peter Hurley as well, and you know, watch him and how he was able to communicate with the people. And I also shot second for a wedding photographer. I never want to shoot first for a wedding. I just too much involvement there. But as a second, I always find it fun. But he had this thing where he was a good-looking guy, and so whenever he went up to anybody, and he'd go up to the bridesmaids, the bride, and say, "Hey, gorgeous, look over here," and they just like flip their hair, look over, and have this gleaming smile because it's like, oh, let's, you know, it's like Hugh Jackman just said hello to them, and all of a sudden, all the girls have this like beautiful smile on their face. I can't do that. You know, I'll go up to someone like, "Excuse me, I want to take a picture," and they give me this look like, "Who's this creep?" That's the look that I get when I take pictures like that.
Don't sell yourself short. I mean, yeah, you're right. Peter Hurley's he came from modeling and then went behind the camera, I think. But yeah, but I think his personality just works. He's so quick. He's a little bit of like my Impractical Jokers. I love that show, and especially one of them. He's just so quick with the randomness. And when I watch Peter Hurley, yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable enough to say he's a good-looking guy. Rob, you're a good-looking guy too. I don't think that's holding you back. I think it's just that
it's the personality.
Because I've been in the situation where I didn't keep the confidence level high enough that I kind of like lost the situation. And you just can't do that. You just have to act like you know, and if it doesn't work, you just move on. As Jamie was saying, there's nothing negative. It's just you're just trying more. You're happy with what's going on, and you're just trying a new thing. And so that's what I work on. Is that, and I work sometimes with teenagers now because I have a teenager, and I'm that guy. I'm like the friend's dad, you know, so there's a challenge there too. And you just have to really kind of keep up a certain confidence level. And I'm not saying that I always still nail it or anything, but that, I think that's one of them. And I just want to give one more quick thing from my part is, Rob, ask me if I can shoot your wedding.
So Ron, can you shoot my wedding?
No. I mean,
course, right?
That's just because I'm not a wedding photographer and I'm not trying to be. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm very impressed with those people that are. And don't be afraid to say no. If your business is not that, or you don't want to make it that, then don't. If you want to, it's a real special craft that you really have to work on. So,
no, absolutely.
So, it's going to take a lot more than listening to some podcasts, right?
Right? Like if you look at any of my stuff where I have people in it, here's the thing. All of mine are done with professional models. So I'll come in, the models are there. I've got an art director that's there saying, here's a scene. This is what we want. Models, you need to do this. And I'll stand there while the agency person is stylizing the photo. And literally, I'll go click. The agency person looks at it and goes, no. You need to smile a little bit more. Good. Click.
That sounds fabulous.
It is.
Once, then it would get boring. I don't know.
So, you know what, Gemma? When I'm on your website right now looking at this because this is fantastic stuff. What is it? It is promptographer.com. And I see there, it says it's an app. It's coming soon. And sign up below to be notified. And hell yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
I think, thank you, Rob. But I think what you said, Ron, is a really great point about if it doesn't work, just moving on, because you don't want to to crush someone's confidence, especially if they're not a professional model and they're a little bit timid in being in front of the camera. I always get people, like, every photo shoot, they go, oh, I look really bad in every photo, so just be aware I'm going to look terrible in all these photos. And I'm like, I will try to not make you look terrible. And people, I used to worry about this a lot, that when I first started out, I'd go, oh, every photo has to be really great. And I feel really bad if I take a bad photo of somebody. But I did a bit of work with a mentor who is amazing in the wedding industry over here. And he goes to America and stuff as well, Ben Connolly. And he said, they're not going to see the photos that you took that were bad, because you're not going to show them those photos. Like, you're going to, like, you can say, yep, okay, that was great, guys, let's move it on to the next bit, move on to the next thing, and just don't put those photos in the set, and they're not going to know that they were terrible, and they're not going to know that they looked bad. And I said, yeah, but won't people remember that I posed them in this weird way and then I didn't, you took the photo? And he said, they might, but you're going to deliver the photos, like, a month and a half, 2 months later. People aren't going to remember every single photo that you took, and they're not going to be worried about ones that are, like, missing from the set. Right. So I think that's a really good thing to take on board when you're starting to photograph people, is that you can keep the momentum going, even if you're like, ugh, at the back of the camera at what you just took a photo of. Yep, that was fine. Looks great. Move on.
I think you can put them at ease early on too. And this might have been coming from a Peter Hurley style of, when you get them in your clutches and you say, no, this is what I do. I'm going to make you look like on your best day. This is going to be the best photo. You're going to look at it and think it's the best photo you've ever taken, because, or maybe you say that with your samples, do you think all of these people look this way walking down the street? Look at the self ones I have of me. They look way better than real life. Or just, I guess the old adage is that the portrait photographer makes you look like you look on your best day. So that might be a good place to start, and just say that I'm going to pose you in some odd way. It's going to feel funny, but it's going to look great, and just get them to relax. Yeah. And I've gotten some, I shouldn't sell myself short so much either. I have had good results doing those things. I just don't feel like I've built up the confidence that I really want, that it's automatic yet. But
yeah.
All right, let's talk about our panel here a little bit. Jamie, do you want to give us a little bit of a bio? Do you have anything to plug?
Oh boy. Yeah. So I have a podcast of my own. I've been doing that for getting close to 10 years now. It's called Mirrorless Minutes. Started that back when the first mirrorless cameras were coming out. Started off with an Olympus OMD EM5, and that was about the time I became a brand ambassador for them. So that's part of my lineage as well. I was a brand ambassador for Olympus Imaging North America for almost a decade. Recently left that role with them a couple years ago so I could explore the world of larger sensors and other camera gear. So I've learned since then that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's just different grass. So that's a little bit about my history there. I still represent a couple other companies in the camera industry, Vanguard Photo being one of them. But yeah, so I'm a nature and wildlife kind of guy. Teach workshops around the country, at least up until COVID hit. So it's been on a 2.5 year hiatus since my last workshop. But
there are plenty of full frame mirrorless to
I'm
use now, right?
Sony A7 III, Sony A7R III are my other cameras.
For what it's worth, I have a OMD EM1 Mark Nothing, the original. still use it. I mean, I still use my Nikon gear too, but kind of both. Rob, what are you telling people about today? What do you want to plug?
It's funny. For the last, it feels like years now. But for the last couple of months here, we've been just polishing up and finishing up our online course for real estate photography. So that should be coming up fairly soon, and you can find out more about that at www.robmoroto.com. Just sign up there. And aside from that, we're going strong with doing real estate photos in Calgary still, and we might be expanding out east and out west, and out east and out west. It's all still in Canada, so still small markets in comparison to down where you guys are, but it's it's going.
I can definitely vouch for Rob's courses coming along because I've seen it and know him well, and he's got check it out if anybody that's interested in going pro in real estate. It's a good business now, and the quality of the photography is getting better because we're all getting better, and people like Rob are teaching it, and the cameras, of course, are getting better, and everything. But I think it's a good business again, and so check that out. Jemma, have we've already talked about what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I think you have. Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool.
On what Rob was saying, the real estate market in Australia is insane at the moment. It is just crazy. I don't know what it's like over where you guys are, but
You mean for photographers or just selling a lot, like housing?
Just selling so many houses. But so I think if you were going to become a real estate photographer, now would really be the time to jump on board, because you would never have more houses to photograph than you would have right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's always funny. I've always said that with real estate, when things are good, people are buying, and when things are bad, people are selling. And so regardless of if it's good or bad, there's always going to be a need for real estate photography. And real estate photography is not necessarily for the sale of the home, which is an interesting thing that we figured out. It is for the marketing of the realtor.
Yes.
And so if you want to be a good realtor, you have to be using good photographers, because whatever you put online, i.e. your listings, that is your portfolio of your work. And if the majority of the visuals are the photos of past houses, well, that better look dang good if you want to get the next listing.
That's right. Once I learned that, it changed my understanding of when I'm out just selling myself as well. And that's what even some of the new real estate agents don't realize, but it's for their marketing. So to make them look at that, especially around here, I'm in Northern California. By the time there's an open house, that house is usually sold right now. So they're even there having the open house for their own marketing. So they're ahead. They're one step ahead as well. It's a very interesting business right now. And I did real estate photography many years ago, and I was starting out, and it was hard to make any real living at it. But it's really changed a lot now. I'm getting back into it now because it's really grown up. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about our featured article, which and we can even complete our introduction of Jemma, because I did not know that you're a physics teacher, and I don't know what a speculative fiction author means. So there are a couple more things that you can tell us about yourself before we talk about your article.
I do teach physics. So year 11 and 12 physics. Is that what you guys call it in America? No,
physics,
seniors.
Yeah, we have that. Yeah.
The
ages.
No, I mean year 11 and 12. Yeah, I know you guys have physics.
Junior and senior.
No.
Yeah. Junior and senior.
Yeah. So I teach physics when I'm not being a photographer, and I've been doing that for 10 years or so. I'm on leave at the moment with my little kitties, but yeah. And then speculative fiction is science fiction, fantasy. It's like the overarching genre that covers all of those things. So, yeah.
Wow. So is it like thoughtful science fiction, or is it
science? Yeah.
cerebral?
So there's different no, it's not. There's different varieties of science fiction. So there's hard science fiction, which would be like The Martian. If you remember that movie where he gets stranded on Mars. And hard science fiction is like science with fiction happening. And there's all of the science is really accurate, and there's a fictional story that relies on the science. Whereas I write soft science fiction, which is like fiction where science is kind of used as an imaginary structure with it. And a good example of that is like when if you're projecting into the future, and maybe there's futuristic science that doesn't actually exist yet, but sounds plausible to support the plot. So that's the kind of science fiction that I write.
So like Star Trek would do it, where they would kind of explain things that would kind of make sense, even though we don't have a clue if it would ever work.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then fantasy is different again in that it has to have some magical element. So science fiction is allowed. You can kind of have a crossover of science fantasy, but yeah, that's starting to get into genre debates.
So that's
So,
like the
yeah.
Marvel universe, isn't it?
Yeah, technically the Marvel universe is science fiction because they rely on a magical system that is science so advanced it looks like magic. So technically it's science fiction.
Ah,
I think I would argue that there is both, because some of them is that, and some of them is just straight up magical.
well,
That they
Doctor
just
Strange
Yeah.
is all magic.
magically have powers for some reason.
Isn't Doctor Strange time? He doesn't he bend time and stuff though?
With
And
magic.
portals, and
Okay,
he
with
has,
magic.
yeah.
What about the Scarlet Witch? Here we go. What show are we doing here?
I think a lot of conversations with photographers, I'm going to say devolve, but let's just say it switches into Marvel and Star Wars and stuff. So I think that's maybe Stargate. I don't know. That's one of my like. It's good learning, probably with everyone else listening, that you're multifaceted.
Yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none.
Very cool. Your boys are going to have all kinds of different interests by following you
Yep.
around.
As you can see in the cupboards behind me.
Well, hey, one of my lifelong interests has been fitness and nutrition and physical health. It's not about me, but I'll say why maybe a little bit later. So that's why I was really, when I saw your article, and it's been a few months now, I think, but I thought of it right away when I was starting the show that I wanted to have this on, because I've had my experiences, and I know a lot of photographers talk about carrying around gear, and it's getting harder maybe as we age, and maybe having injuries. And you had a great article about how to stretch and how to prepare your body to go on a shoot. And I feel like I should give you the floor first and tell us kind of what inspired it, and maybe the link, of course, will be in the show notes for everybody to read. But for our audio listeners, maybe you can tell us the important parts right here.
Yeah, sure. So I have been doing Pilates for a while myself, and I have a fairly weak back because of genetics and having children, and that was something that I was sort of struggling with as I was photographing more weddings, particularly really long day weddings where you're carrying really heavy gear around all the time. And I started to ease out of the weddings a little bit when I had my second son, and I now just shoot weddings as a second shooter for one of my very good friends who she was kind of one of the inspirations for the article, because she's moved from working as a solo photographer into branching out into a studio, which was something that she always had planned on doing. She'd always had that as the vision, to have a studio of photographers working with her and working for her. But because of injuries that she's sustained by long photo shoots and heavy gear, she has had to push that into higher gear and has now expanded into a studio of photographers. So that was something that I'd been talking to my Pilates teacher about, and we came to this idea of, wouldn't it be great if there was a series of exercises that people could do that are targeted to the specific areas that we suffer with photography. So that was kind of the gist of what we were going for. We wanted to put together a sequence of easy exercises that people could do just to prepare before you go into the field, and then things you could do while you're waiting between shoots at a long event, and then editing, because editing is so time consuming and you're sitting down for so long and at your desk. So we wanted to include some that were some suggestions of what people could do to keep themselves, limber and not get stiff and sore while they're editing.
It's almost easier to harm our body by sitting so much than when we're out being active. So as a lot of us work by ourselves as a one-person show, at least for the shooting part, that would be really detrimental if I got injured in a way that I couldn't go shoot a house or a hotel or something like that. And I mean, there might be some ways to get around it, getting some help to move things or whatever. But the main thing, I think, is just to think of ourselves that we might be our entire business. And so doing those kinds of warm-up exercises, well, first doing them regularly, having our bodies that are in as good a shape as possible, obviously is the best way to avoid injuries. But also, no matter what shape we're in, the warm-up is so important. And I think, even like I say, I have a background in this. One of my careers over my life was the fitness business, and Me too. I just get up and go, and I get to a shoot, and I just feel halfway through, I can just feel the aches, and we can all forget. So it's really important to do that warm up, and the exercises in the article were ones that just about anybody can do. So I would highly encourage that.
Yeah, and I think that's what we tried to set it up as, is things that would be doable and accessible for people. And that Miranda, who was my Pilates teacher, who helped with the article by giving me the exercises to write about, she really sets up her whole business on exercise that's accessible for everybody and working with you at your level. And we talked a lot about just good practices for holding gear when you're in the field, like avoiding the photographer hunch, where you're like hunching over to look through the viewfinder, holding the camera close to your body, supporting the weight of it with two hands. All of those things that are little things that don't seem like a big deal until you're doing a really long day of shooting, or you're carrying your gear in the wrong way 100 times over, and you end up with a repetitive strain injury.
That was one of the really exciting parts about, guess what, Micro Four Thirds cameras, that they were so much lighter. And just the biggest thing was that due to the physics of the sensor, maybe Jemma can explain why, but you can have great lenses that are really small compared to my full frame giant lenses on my Nikon. And so that was one of the reasons I wanted to go mirrorless, which at the time was only Micro Four Thirds. So, Jamie, you've bailed on that? Are you going to heavy gear now?
No. So I was talking with Jemma pre-show about, I just kind of view cameras, they're tools, and I feel like some tools are better suited for certain applications than other tools. So for me, the Micro Four Thirds definitely has a place still, especially if I'm going to be hiking a lot and packing a backpack full of gear. Depending on what I'm going to shoot on that hike, sometimes it makes a lot more sense to just pack lighter and smarter. So for me, that would be the Micro Four Thirds kit. You're right. There's definitely advantages to that. I think that's why we see a lot of photographers walking around with a phone all the time and snapping photos and not worrying about something that you can swap lenses in and out, because, this stuff does get heavy over time for sure.
Well, if it means you can bring some nice lenses on a hike, take the Micro Four Thirds, or maybe a great smartphone camera. I don't know, because you're just going to get more shots than if you didn't bring a camera. So I'm right there with you. I remember bringing Micro Four Thirds set up on a few trips that were not for photography, but I was able to bring stuff that changed it a great deal as far as what photos I was able to get given the chance. What I wanted to mention too, along the line of just acting healthy shooting, is to, this just comes from my own experience, is the nutrition side of it, where for me anyway, I was able to just eliminate knee pain, which I had all my life, even when I was a teenager. I was able to just eliminate inflammation from my body just through diet. And that just means eating a lot of greens, frankly, is really what it comes down to. There was a movie, it's a crazy title. It's called, I think it was called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Is that maybe what it was called? It was on Netflix. And it was just about a guy that was really obese, and he changed his life with the green juice. And I wasn't fat, sick, nearly dead, but I did drop a whole ton of weight by adding a kind of a juicing thing into my life, where I just went out and got a bunch of greens. So, I don't want to derail too long, but if anybody's interested in this, there are easy ways to lose inflammation through our whole body, even in the brain. It's amazing. And it really was eliminating sugar and things that turn into sugar in your body, and getting a lot of these greens have nutrients like collard greens, and some of the other greens that we don't get that much are very anti-inflammatory and can really change you. You don't have to just drink juice all the time. It's not like that, but you can have it as part of your diet. My fitness life had some Eastern medicine involved, and I got herbs back in those days, and those are very powerful too for the same kinds of reasons. So I just want to encourage people to know that there are ways to avoid the pains of our knees and our backs and things like that. And like I say, I'm 52 and I haven't had a knee pain in a long time. And if I start to feel a little tinge, then I know that I'm not eating right, and I can adjust it. So I was kind of throwing that out there. Hey, and if I get some feedback, I might get prompted. I said prompted to put out a article on what I did to see if it helps anybody, because I just really need some kicks in the butt to do it, because I just have a lot of things to do. But I've always kind of had this intention of just saying my little journey in that, because it helped me and it might help other people. So if I get some feedback in the comments or emails or whatever it is, I might be pushed to do that.
Okay, everyone.
And then maybe we'll be talking about my article later. Sorry?
So we just need to give you a good kick in the butt there to get you working again, eh?
Other people.
Other people.
Rob, like, he's like family. So when your family says something, it's not the same as a bunch of people throwing in, right? Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to mention. Like I said, when we have a photo focus article, the idea is that we kind of expand and throw our own experiences in that. So if you guys have anything like that too, now is a good time.
You know what? You make a good point there, because I look at all these exercises and you're absolutely right. And Ron, talking about the health part, you're right there as well. Now, like, just giving you guys a little bit of background for us, we do real estate photography. So usually when we go into a person's house, the first thing that we typically have to do is take off our shoes. And we go in, we've got our tripods, we take off our shoes, we go in. And I've been in these massive 10,000 square foot places where it's all tile. And so after walking around there for an hour and a half, your feet are just killing you. And it's strange. When you're shooting real estate, you're always shooting around your camera's set at around 4 to 4.5 feet. So you're always crouching down and you're always looking over. And so you get these like awesome lower back pains, and then compound that with the fact that you have no shoes on. It really starts getting to you. So we've started this thing where we're like, this looks like a big house. Do you mind if I bring some indoor shoes here? These are non-marking sneakers. And it's like we're kids back in elementary school, where we have to get like certified non-marking sneakers for the gymnasium. But we get these and we ask politely if we can use them. So having other gear like that has kind of become an important thing for us too.
So what you're saying is you keep a pair of shoes that have never touched the soil. You keep those in the car, and then those can be in the house.
Yeah. And so the best advice that we have is get a pair of white Crocs, because other than being your indoor shoes for a shoot, there is no chance that you'd be outside wearing white Crocs. And if they were dirty, people would see it. But you show people, it's like, no, look, see, they're perfectly clean.
Can you use them for white balance?
Actually, I'm sure you could. You could probably use that and shoot a flash in it and diffuse it, or shoot it through the little holes and get some really cool like shadows.
use it to set your light point.
They're really the accessory that every photographer needs.
It really is. Yeah. Good old white Crocs.
We were talking, Rob, you must have been there. We were talking real estate photography, and Randy Henderson said to a real estate shoot, bring a golf ball, because you can put that out in your scene and you can use that to set the white point. And the way the golf ball is, it has the dimples in it, and it lets it not be overexposed and reflected and whatever. So maybe you can use your Crocs for that. I like it. All right. Unless someone stops me, we can kind of wrap things up. I would like to remind everyone listening that we have started the Q&A show. Rob and I did the first one. And love your questions. It can be anything photography. And apparently it can even be things like, if it's related to photography, like exercise and diet or fashion, your shoes you're wearing. Apparently it can all be photo related. So shoot us questions at photofocus.com/questions. Easy to remember. And I would love to get more audio questions. If you just record it on your smartphone and use the share button to email it to us. I really like playing the audio on the show. It just makes it more fun and interactive. Get to know your personality comes through, and I think it's better for answering them too. So please, if you have any burning questions, throw them at us, and we will have some of us on more Q&A shows coming up.
And be sure to send your questions about the Marvel Universe because we love those as well.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'm Ron Pepper in San Francisco. We've got Jemma Pollari down there in Australia, Brisbane, right?
Almost. Sunshine Coast.
Okay, I don't know what that means, but Sunshine Coast. Rob Moroto up there in Vancouver Island?
Nope, still in Vancouver Island. And in Calgary. Going back and forth.
And Jamie MacDonald, thanks for coming. We'd love to have you on again sometime. And hope you get to know the Photo Focus audience and they get to know you as well. Links to find all of us are in the show notes for our websites, Instagram, etc. We will see you next month for the May Roundtable.
You get the ABBA photo where everyone's like, looking this way, looking that way, looking this way.
Everything that I'm saying is always a positive.
When things are good, people are buying. And when things are bad, people are selling.
Who's this guy that's taking our pictures? And I'm like, who are these people I'm taking pictures of?
Don't have a clue if it would ever work.
Yes.